So, as mentioned a few weeks ago, I am basically going back over some of my really early videos and redoing them with actual narrative. So this video is actually based on a series of 4 videos which I did really early on in my channel, which is basically looking at the flaws in Sami's narrative, essentially, starting from the party and looking at things that just don't quite add up. This is nothing you've heard before, but if you've not figured it out already, I'm doing my best on my channel here to create a complete picture of Kylie's case, so that should anyone be interested enough to really want to deep dive into Kylie's case, hopefully my videos will provide that option. So this is me redoing my series of rethinking the narrative, but this time actually adding a proper narrative to it rather than just doing screen slides with music, which is what I was originally doing. So let's jump in and have a look. So as I mentioned, I'm going to start by looking at the timeline. And first of all, we're told that 11 p.m, this is what Sami says, they went to Kylie's car to charge their phones. Now, I think there's probably been a few other versions of this come out since then, but like I said, this is based on my video from 18 months ago. So they went to charge their phones and to text Kylie's mum to try and get a later curfew. And of course, what else were they trying to do? They were talking about charging her phone, because you do that, right? Sitting there and charging your phone and talking about it. And then they were also talking about stuff and about talking about ringing Kylie's mum. So I will come back to that and my thoughts on what the heck was that all about. Now, on my original video, I did actually mention that they went to the car with a few other unnamed girls. But the reality is we don't know who the other people were that they went to the car with, so it could have been a couple of guys. And given Sami's tendency to hang around with guys quite often, it is possible. Now, 11:30, and this is confirmed by law enforcement, Kylie messaged her mother to say that she was leaving in 45 minutes. So based on Sami's timeline, they went to the car at around 11, and they sat there and they spoke about charging their phones and texting Kylie's mum for half an hour before Kylie finally texted her mum. What were they doing at the car for half an hour? Maybe they were just sitting around and drinking, perhaps. But it just seems that, you know, she's very vague about the conversation that occurred at the car. And we have this empty block of time of half an hour when supposedly all they were talking about was charging phones and contacting Kylie's mum. And now we have the confusion, because apparently after sitting around and talking for half an hour about absolutely nothing, they returned to the party. So Sami says, we returned to the party. Now, I'm going to say that she's not saying we as in her and Kylie, because she's told us that she then went and asked for another lift. Had she returned to the party with Kylie, she's not going to be asking someone else for a lift, is she? So I think the we is whoever she was in the car with Kylie. I think that's significant, and I'll get back to that soon. So going back to Sami asking Kylie for a lift. Why did she want a ride? Well, she claims because her ride was leaving and she wanted to stay longer. But then You have her and someone else going back to the party, and her immediately trying to organise a different lift for herself. Now, like we said, she claims that her and Kylie were drinking the same things throughout the night. So you would presume that she would know exactly how much Kylie had to drink. Why would you ask someone to give you a ride home if you then believed that they had drank too much? Because you would know. We're talking about roughly a half-hour period of time here, possibly. This supposedly, but I'll come back and talk about the problems with this timeline in a little while. But she's basically, on one hand, saying that she's been with Kylie the whole night and she asked Kylie for a lift home. And then she claims that pretty much straight after asking her a lift home, she's decided that Kylie is too drunk and she has to ask someone else. That part of the narrative has always really, really bothered me. But like I said, who else did she go back to the party with? I think that's important too. Now here's an interesting thought. We've always presumed that the time frame for Sami being at the car is 11 to 11:30, simply because they are markers that we have in our heads. Her saying we went to the car around 11, and then talking about, well, and we spoke about her texting her mum, and then she texts her mum. So that infers that she was still at the car at 11:30 when Kylie texted her mum. But she doesn't say when she went back to the party. All we know is that sometime between 11:30 and 12:25, according to Sami's narrative, her and Kylie parted ways. Sami went and asked someone else for a lift because, you know, she knows about drunk drivers and all that. And then before leaving again at 12:25, she apparently went and found Kylie, did the "see you later, I've got a ride, love you" bullcrap. So we don't know where, according to her narrative, how long she was at Kylie's car for. So that's something that is not really covered in the narrative. Is it important? Maybe, maybe not. But it is still something that we need to bear in mind. Now, let's remember before we go any further that Kylie was not drunk. Okay, now let's talk about Kylie's phone. We know that at 12:03 it stopped sharing its location, and that is confirmed by law enforcement. We're told that at 12:25 Sami said goodbye to Kylie and then got a lift home with this mystery person. This person who, for some reason, we are not supposed to know who they were. And of course, Sami was in the passenger seat. Interesting, and I think it is very, very interesting that she says these weird things about this ride home. I was driving in the passenger seat, and we don't have a name of whoever it was that took her home. We've heard a few different versions of it. We've had Megan claim that it was someone called Connor, but then she forgot that part of the story later on. So who was driving? Was it Connor? Was it Mags? Was it Sami? Was it Daisy Cole? Because we've also heard Megan say, well, Daisy's normally the nominated driver. Was she the nominated driver at the party? Why is it so important for us to not know who it was that supposedly drove Sami home? I'm going to just outright say it. I think the reason why we don't know who drove Sami home was because Sami didn't drive home. I believe Sami left the party in a vehicle as the driver of that vehicle. And I'm going to get to that a little bit further down the track. So supposedly after Sami left, Kylie's phone completely stopped communicating with any towers or anything at 12:33, meaning it was completely dead. So depending on which article you read or which interview you watch, at 12:36, Sami saw a call, or she called, or she had a text, or she had the last call with or from Kylie. This is a huge red flag, because for the language to be so variable, to me outright says this never occurred. Because she would know if she saw a call, or if she called, or if she had a text from Kylie. This is not going to change in the narrative unless it is made up and she's forgetting what the narrative was. That is my firm belief here. And as I've already mentioned, the other thing which is a huge red flag and which straight away pulls out the bullshit meter is she doesn't know if she was driving or riding with her ride. And she claims she told Kylie to be safe and she could hear the party in the background, even though she was the last person to speak with, see Kylie, know what was going on with Kylie. So that is another huge red flag. Now, supposedly, after this 12:36 phone call from Kylie, nobody knows anything else about what went on. And of course, there's also the part of the narrative where Sami mentions that when she left, Kylie was headed back into the party. So apparently, she left, Kylie was headed back into the party, but she was the last person to see Kylie or know anything about what was going on with Kylie, and the last person to speak to her, even though Kylie's phone had died at least 3 minutes before she supposedly rang Sami. So if we really start to break this up and go back to 11 p.m, which is when they apparently went to Kylie's car to charge phones and talk about charging phones and text Kylie's mum, etc. So we have the same story in multiple articles. That top one said that they met up again at 11 and that they went to charge their phones. Remember that, their phones. Again, it's here, it says they went to Kylie's car to charge their phones at 11. And so we've got that said in multiple places. And this is where things start to fall apart. Because there seem to be gaps in the timeline and there seem to be problems with the whole narrative. So why did it all suddenly start to fall apart?
And then we went to her car to charge her phone, and we were talking about just random stuff, and then it's kind of hard to remember. And so, or no, we were talking about her texting her mom and her charging her phone and stuff, and just about the party in general. And then Kylie is one of my close friends. We met through mutual friends, and we became closer in the past year to coming months recently. And
so on the screen here is a text message from Kate that was shared with a creator, and I can't think of his name. It's the Irish dude, I think he is, and he had communications with Kate about Kylie and about Kylie and Sami's friendship. And Kate has said, I was not at the party. Kylie and Sami were never really friends. Mags is her best friend. Kylie and I are close friends. So this is someone who is close to Kylie and knows enough to say, yeah, then they were never really friends. So that's important, and that has an impact on what we're looking at here with the timeline, and I'll come back to that in just a moment and explain that a little bit more. And then, of course, you have this comment from Jagger. Jagger insists that Kylie could not stand Sami and asks, was Kylie with Sami, like Sami claims, at the party? His answer, not in any of the videos that I saw or anyone else's video from the party. They were never together. Now, not only is he confirming that, well, hang on, no, Kylie couldn't stand Sami, but it's interesting, he talks about having seen videos from the party. And this is mentioned a few times. There is another mention somewhere, which I don't think I've still got it, where he talks about Kylie seeming okay in a video that he had seen at the party. I'm not sure if that's entirely correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But there were videos that were being shared around from the party. And according to Jagger, videos that showed Kylie didn't include Sami, which is really, really interesting. And this is really, really important when we look at the timeline. And I'll come back to that as well.
My thing is, if she's as close to Kylie as she says she is,
I don't know that she was. I don't know that she was.
Put it out there, very, very much so that they
Well,
are
let me
so
ask you-
close and
I
they
think
were
you have-
unacceptable. I mean, we don't believe that they were that close because they're. I mean, she's got plenty of pictures with everybody else, but there's none of the two of them together. In this day and age, the kids, if they are hanging out, there's going to be some evidence that they were together.
Okay, I do need to apologise for that music in the background. Short of stopping and spending hours looking for all these audio clips again, this is the kind of best I can offer. Obviously, I am doing a lot of editing from the original video, but that is one area where it is a little bit challenging. I may be able to edit the music out post download, but we'll have to see. So here's the thing, and I think many of us have asked this multiple times. Why would you hang out with someone's car when you're not at someone's car when you're not friends with them? I would imagine Kylie was a pretty strong-minded individual. So I would imagine she would have been quite blunt about someone that she doesn't like wanting to hang out at her car. So how did that happen? And why ask someone for a lift home if you know they don't like you? And of course, by extension, Kylie had a curfew. She had just got an extension of her curfew and needed to leave the campground at 12:15 to get home on time. To be able to give Sami a lift home, she would have had to have gone out of her way, meaning she would have not only been going in the wrong direction, but she would have broken her curfew. Not only that, but when Sami talks about going to Kylie's car for them to charge their phones, she's talking about them charging their phones. It wasn't just about charging Kylie's phone. It was about, we went to charge our phones. So you saw that in those two clips that I showed you. She's saying that they went to charge their phones. What's odd about that? Sami owned a portable charger. We actually see it when there's that press conference, the outdoors one. Not only that, but we also see that Mags had one as well. Now, I haven't included the clip of Mags with her portable charger, But I did have the clip of Sami with her portable charger. It is quite clear that she had a portable charger. And I suspect that if Mags had one, Kylie probably had one too. And apparently no one was taking photos or taking videos at the party anyway. So why need to charge your phones? And along with the mystery of who supposedly drove Sami home, we have another mystery. And that is when Sami went supposedly with Kylie to her car for them to charge their phones, they were with friends. Who are these mystery friends? We've never heard mention of who they are. No one's come forward and said, yeah, we went to Kylie's car as well, and we were there talking about charging phones and contacting her mum or texting her mum. So who are they? Why were those names also not mentioned? It seems really convenient to put forward this narrative where you have these people who are never named. To me, I don't think Sami ever hung out at Kylie's car. I think that is an excuse, and I think that there is a reason for that excuse. So why would someone say that they had hung out at someone's car when in truth they actually didn't? We've not had anyone come forward and say they were there at the car with Sami. We've not had anyone come forward and say they saw Sami at the car with Kylie. Who knows if there's any videos of Sami at the car with Kylie, because we've not seen any videos at all from the party. We've never heard from these mystery friends who hung out at the car. So you see where I'm going here. They weren't friends. Kylie really didn't like Sami. Why would they hang out at Kylie's car? And why is it that the people that were supposedly there have never been mentioned? It doesn't make sense. I know that if I was a 16-year-old girl and there was an 18-year-old girl at a party that I really didn't like, no matter, and I was a shy 16-year-old, but I still would have found a way of making sure that she didn't come and hang out at my car. So as far as her story, all we know is what Sami has told us. There is no one to back it up. Not one single person. Not the person who supposedly gave her a lift home. Not the people that were in Kylie's car supposedly with Sami and Kylie. And were these people supposedly Kylie's friends or Sami's friends? I think that the narrative falls apart from the point of we went to Kylie's car, and that never actually happened because she can't get that narrative straight. I think the reason that Sami is really vague about what they spoke about at the car is because it never happened. And of course she doesn't know Kylie well enough to actually be able to think of the kind of topics that they may have actually discussed while they were sitting in the car. I mean, if I were to say, oh, I was at a party with a friend and we went and we sat in the car and we talked, even if I couldn't quite remember, I'd at least know them well enough to have an idea of what we probably talked about. But Sami couldn't even fabricate a conversation, and I'm not saying that what I was saying is that I could make one up. I'm saying I would at least have a fair idea of what we talked about from past experience. But Sami had nothing to base it on, so she couldn't even make one up. Now, apparently this whole narrative was important enough for Sami to establish the idea that she went to Kylie's car. So, thinking about it, I think she did go to Kylie's car, but not with Kylie. I don't believe that she went with Kylie unless she was inserting herself, pretending to talk to Kylie about something. But I don't think that's what happened. I suspect when we look at the timeline, Kylie should have been heading home around the time that Sami claims that she went to that they went to the car, right? So, was Kylie about to head home? Did Sami know that Kylie was about to leave and head home? And so she followed her back to her car. For some reason, she wanted to stop Kylie from heading home. Because, like I said, I think that it's important enough here in the narrative that Sami probably did go to Kylie's car. Why she went to Kylie's car, we can only guess. But I don't believe that she went to Kylie's car with Kylie. I don't believe that she went to Kylie's car for them to charge their phones. And I don't believe she had any conversation with Kylie at that car. Now, like I said, Sami doesn't specifically say what time she went back into the party. She does say that Kylie texted her mum at 11:30. So from there we are meant to make the presumption that Sami was present while that occurred. So sometime from 11:30 onwards, Sami returned to the party without Kylie. She's established that quite clearly. I went back to the party because I needed to find another ride because Kylie was intoxicated. And I know about drunk drivers and all that. So, essentially, what is Sami trying to establish here? She is trying to establish that she was at Kylie's car. She's also trying to establish that she returned from Kylie's car without Kylie. We can lock those in. Her excuse here is, I went to Kylie's car with Kylie so we could charge our phones. And so she could message her mum. I came back without Kylie because I realised she was pissed and I needed to find a new ride. That's her story. Is there another reason why she came back from the car on her own and why we are supposed to know that she was at Kylie's car and she came back on her own?
I had asked her for a ride home when we were in the car because my ride was leaving and I wanted to stay at the party longer. And so then we ended up splitting up in the party because I went to go find another ride when we got back into the party after leaving the car.
So, according to Lindsay, Kylie contacted her at 11:30 to extend her curfew, meaning that she should be leaving the party at 12:15. Remember, that's 10 minutes before Sami claims that she left the party. Now, I don't believe, from what we know of Kylie, that had Sami asked her for a ride, that Kylie would have been like, yeah, sure, and I'll leave later past my curfew and wait for you.
Well, she just, it was 11:30 that night, and she said that she was going to be planning on leaving about 12:15 and heading home. And I told her to be careful and wake me up when she got home. And she said, okay, Mama, I love you. And that's it.
And of course, unlike Sami, the things that Lindsay has said about Kylie are consistent. So here we have, according to mother Lindsay Rodney Neiman, Kylie sent her a final text that said she would be straight home in about 45 minutes. And sorry, this one's a bit fuzzy. I extended her curfew. I had done it before and felt safe. She texted me at 11:30 p.m. to say she would be leaving at 12:15 to come home. She said, I love you, Mum. That was the last I heard from her. And I think the second paragraph in this is the most important thing that we need to bear in mind. Talking about Kylie normally has a curfew to be home by 11:30, but sometimes messages asking to stay out until 12:30 a.m. if she's at a party. We always grant that she never misses a curfew, and if she's going to be late, she'll call or text to let us know, said Ms. Rodney Neiman. And Kylie was quite capable of contacting her mum at 11:30 to get an extension on her curfew. So something happened after 11:30 that meant that she couldn't contact her mum to say that A, she either wasn't coming home or she was expecting to come home later. She certainly didn't at any point in time say, can I extend my curfew and can I extend it even later so I can drop Sami home? Okay, so I think this question answers itself. Is there a connection between Sami going to Kylie's car and Kylie asking for a later curfew? I think most of us would agree that there has to be a connection here. It seems far too coincidental. Why did Kylie decide to extend her curfew? Because this was a party that she hadn't planned on going to. This was a last minute party. And Sami is claiming Kylie was hanging out with her. Kylie didn't even like Sami. Why would you extend your curfew to hang out with someone that you didn't even like? Did she really want to extend her curfew?
As it stands now, we just know that she was last seen early Saturday morning, shortly after midnight. She verbally communicated to her friend that she wanted to go home.
So at 11:30 she texts her mum to say, I want to extend my curfew. And then at midnight she tells her friends that she wants to go home. Why is she expressing that she wants to go home in the first place? Wouldn't you just be like, see you later, I'm going home? That sounds to me like there was some reason why she couldn't go home at midnight. I don't know what your interpretation is, but that is how I took it. Now, the problem we've got here is neither of the two people who were sharing the information about Kylie and the whole going to the car, why she didn't go home, etc., neither of them are credible people. So how are we supposed to know what the truth is? I think there were enough people early on calling out both Sami and Megan Cole because they could not tell their stories. They couldn't keep their stories consistent, and their stories didn't match. What Megan Cole was saying, in some instances, was contradicting what Sami said. And then Sami herself was contradicting herself. And then, of course, Megan Cole was contradicting herself. Their stories just were not adding up. And we're still left with the question of why was Sami at Kylie's car? Why did Kylie need to extend her curfew when half an hour later she was telling her friends that she wanted to be able to go home. What was the real situation here?
Did you ever ask if anybody took the keys? How do you know they didn't? How do you know that that wasn't what the discussion was about?
Of course, trying to get to the bottom of anything Megan says is frustrating and confusing. But what was she talking about? Was she just trying to redirect the narrative? Or was she talking about something happening at the car? Was Megan Cole trying to tell us in her oh so very clumsy way that Sami actually followed Kylie back to her car and took Kylie's keys? And that that's what was going on in terms of them talking at the car. Maybe Sami is saying, oh, we were at the car chatting, because she fears that there may have been witnesses who saw her at the car taking Kylie's keys and Kylie having a go at her and saying, give me my keys back. Because this seems to be a narrative that Megan Cole clung to for quite some time. She brought this up several times. And of course there's the missing Zoomies key tag. So is there a little bit of truth to what Megan is saying here? Or is she just trying to control the narrative?
I only know that it was told to me that someone said that she has her keys. That's all I know. So, which leads me to think that someone took her keys.
So what was with the keychain story? Here you have Sami really intent on locating this keychain, this Zoomies straw keychain. We've only heard this from her, but she kept asking people for it. We need to find this. We need to find this reusable straw holder, this small metal black cylinder. And yet law enforcement, there was a town meeting, and they said they knew nothing about it. So it just starts to become really, really interesting. What was the importance of this keychain holder, this Zoomies keychain holder? Because it seemed to only be important to Sami. And to me, and pointed out by other people, how did they get the car in the reservoir without keys? So the keychain holder can't have been attached to Kylie's keys. So then you've got to ask, why is that the case? And why was it so important to Sami to find this keychain holder?
Someone knows what happened later in the party, nothing bad, and just something that happened later in the party that was a small thing, and it started then.
So I am essentially going to leave it hanging right there, because this is one of those videos where it's hard to find a logical break. So I'm going to stop it there and continue with the second half tomorrow. So I think there's a lot already here for people to think about. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what has been discussed so far. Like I said, none of this is new information. This is simply me redoing early videos from my channel in a way that makes them somewhat more informative and easier to watch and a bit clearer with the information that's being put out. So if you're new, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button and leave a comment YouTube loves it when you hit like and leave a comment. That gets my videos out into the algorithm and seen by other people.